Okay, we call the meeting to order, the BUHS Board number 6, November 2nd, 2015. Thank you all for showing up, and we'll go through this agenda. There is no board education session tonight. We've had 2 in a row, so we have perhaps a little fewer things on the agenda, though we do have some policies to talk about. But as normal, we will start with the clerk's report, and that would be the approval of the minutes for our October 19th meeting.
I move approval of the minutes, the October 19th, 2015 meeting.
Second.
Ruth, seconded by Ricky. Okay. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes of October 19th? If not, all in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Abstentions? Mr. McMahon, okay. That takes care of that. Are there any communications? Okay. Anything else for the clerk's report? Okay. If not, we move on to recognition of groups and individual visitors, and we have Kevin O'Donnell here, BUHS Math Department.
Would now be the time to say anything? Or?
If you would like to, yes.
Yeah, if I could, I was real pleased that a month ago when I talked about the early release absences, and I was pleased with the energy in the room for doing something with it. And I'm sure some things have happened in the background, but I have a few anecdotes from the trenches that would hopefully keep that ball in the air.
Okay. Yeah.
Just on that week that I mentioned, where we had anticipated 197 student athletes leaving school prior to their Block 4 classes, maybe once, twice, or even 3 times. That very same week, we had an activity day whereby my very casual data collection, over 200 students, in addition to those other students, missed classes on Wednesday due to activities. And that's something that I would like to think we have more control over than the headmaster scheduling games and stuff. So there's that. During that week, we also had German students visiting, and I had a couple visit my class, and I asked them, do they ever miss school for sports? And their immediate answer was no. I think their public schools actually don't have teams. To be on a team, you have to, get your own private team. The schools don't sponsor it. We also had a career expo there, and to my knowledge, there was no professional athletic teams there vying for the kids' attention. And it's just a telling part of the whole picture of how I would like us to re-examine our priorities with regard to the need for kids to miss classes.
Okay, well, I appreciate those comments. I would, that reminds me that, and I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but somebody I was discussing this with wondered about the possibility of switching the ACE block time around and combining so that somehow you miss less actual class time. Is that something that might be under?
Yeah, we're willing to look that down the road, but for right now, where we've situated ACE is towards the end of the day before Block 4.
Yeah.
And once it's a firm part of the culture of the school, and we have a firm commitment on the part of students and of staff to use it We're certainly going to look at that, but for this year, we're going to leave it where it is. Down the road, we'd be willing to look at that. Right now, frankly, if we were to say ACEs at the end of the day, we would lose students left and right.
The ones that aren't involved in activities would,
Right. So, as I said to the faculty and as I said to the rest of the administrative team, we're willing to look at it, we're just not right now. We want to get this program up and running with Fidelity first.
but we will continue to think about the impact of all the activities.
Right, and Oliver's going to allude to a little bit more about next steps in his report. Or
Okay.
Bethany, I don't know, one of them.
She's eating an apple.
There we go.
Okay. Well, we will keep it out there.
Can I just
Okay.
ask a question on that? If the ACE block right now is just before, is there any move to using that for, if a student knows they're going to miss the last block, of using that to sort of do a preview of the class or to be able to do that? Sort
That's
of thing?
one of the stated uses.
Yeah. Kevin, have you seen that happen at all?
Well, frequently the early release time has the kids miss ACE.
ACE as well. Oh, okay.
And, but it also, it's not the same as the classroom experience, or I would hope that the way I construct my classes, that the classroom experience would be far more valuable than, but also what's at issue is the classroom experience is diminished for even the kids who remain. And then 3 or 4 kids get up and leave during class. And that itself is damaging. So even if we could rescue their academic access through ACE, it still damages the whole process.
Well, it's a complex challenge. We'll keep working on it. Okay. We move into consent agenda as the next item. Is there a motion accordingly?
So moved.
Lori, we move into consent agenda and seconded by Ricky. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Hearing none, we are now in consent agenda, and we will start with report of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee met on October 21st, I believe.
I had the
That was the Wednesday after the Monday meeting. I think it was the 21st.
yes, you're right, even though it says, well, that was approval of warrant dates. That's correct. It was Wednesday instead of Thursday because
Okay.
Frank needed to change it, yep.
We approved warrant numbers 1065, 1066, 1067, 1069, 1071, 1072, and 1073 in the amount of $2,052,886.62. In addition to that, we had no payrolls. In addition, we reviewed the Whetstone Village property proposal and talked about FY17 budget development assumptions. And our next meeting will be this Thursday, the 5th of October, November, excuse me.
Yep.
At the usual time of 8 a.m. in the James E. Kane Conference Room at 53 Green Street.
Okay.
How long do those meetings usually go?
Well, we try to condense them to about an hour. Sometimes they go a little.
Sometimes we get carried away, but
Right,
usually
right,
they're about an hour.
most of the time we can do the business that needs to be done in that period of time. There's a lot of interesting topics that we could discuss for quite some time, but some of us do have places to be at 9 o'clock, so we generally finish up by 9 or close to that time. Okay, thank you. How about WSCSU finance?
Yeah, we met last Wednesday, the 28th. Fairly short meeting, approval of warrants and payroll. There was an introduction of the budget and the budget process, talking about the general increases in wages and health insurance, and a starting budget, and with a goal to cut that back. Looking particularly at expanding some of the special ed programs into the other schools beyond the Brattleboro schools, and trying to consolidate. And the brief report was that, particularly mentioning Academy, was able to cut the budget but improve, in fact, the quality, and bringing more people inside from out-of-district placements. But that presentation by special ed, I think, will be on December 2nd. Our next meeting is November 18th at 6 p.m. We'll go over the office budget, the curricular budget, and grants. And then on the December 2nd will be special ed, with shooting to approve a recommendation to a budget to pass it on December 9th. So you're all welcome to come to those meetings. Central office.
Okay. Thank you. Planning and policy.
We met earlier this evening to discuss the policies that are upcoming, and I'll let you know what we talked about when we address those policies in new business.
Okay. Thank you. Teacher curriculum.
Has not met since our last meeting.
Okay. FAMS.
Also has not met since our last meeting.
And WRCC has not met since our last meeting.
No, we haven't.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else for consent agenda? Not. I have a motion to approve.
I move approval of consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, second, Lori. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Seeing none, it is passed unanimously. And we move on to administrative reports. And how about we start with the student council?
Thanks. We've been kind of previewed by Mr. Perrin and Mr. Donald, but this Wednesday, student council's meeting with Mr. Perrin in the morning to review a student survey conducted about how much class time was missed, what steps students feel would be productive to address the missed class time or help make up work. So we will be reviewing that with him in the morning, and then Wednesday afternoon we're hosting an administrative lunch for all 3 lunch periods, where we're inviting students in to come and give their ideas and talk to some of the administration. I know Mr. Perrin, Mr. Day, and Mr. Haas will all be there. Student council members will be there throughout the lunches. I know I'm personally moderating the first lunch, but we will try to allow students to speak productively with the administration and exchange some ideas, as well as get some answers to questions they're not sure about. That's really our first problem to address. We also have begun working on Feed the Thousands. Our kickoff will be in 3 weeks. And we are going to go to the drop-in center again and make a video to show the school, outlining some of the problems with hunger and homelessness and access to resources and food around the town. So we hope to show that at our kickoff assembly, which will be the first Friday before Thanksgiving break.
And you have a full board of student council members now?
Yeah, we're still getting some applications. I know we have a couple freshmen who have expressed interest in giving us paragraphs that we have to review.
Good. Thank you. Well, we appreciate your work helping to coordinate the discussions around class time. Okay. How about we move on to the high school?
Sure. So, first, I'm pleased to report that our new access system is up and running finally. That's the proximity card system that we've replaced the old swipe card system with. And mostly everybody has their card, is ready to go. Board member cards are on their way. We may actually take a few pictures of you and then do your cards because we want to know what you look like. The system is far superior to the one that we had earlier, and it's much more robust. So we're kind of excited to see that finally up and running, only 2 months overdue. Last week we did have our Career Center. We did have the expo here, and put on by the Wyndham Workforce Development Group. And as part of that, we had 60 students sign up to do some pre-expo work. And they actually went, they worked with our counselors about proper resume writing. They talked about what it's like to go into an interview, what kinds of questions are appropriate, what kinds of questions are inappropriate. That went really well. And then that day, we had many teachers of their own volition, brought their students down to kind of look and see what was going on. I know the teachers in the STEM Academy and the Biomedical Academy brought their students down to kind of like look at what kind of biomedical careers are in the area. Last Wednesday, we hosted 54 parents at a parent education session called High and Seek, and I discussed it with the board before that meeting. And Lori, feel free to chime in. It was a phenomenal presentation. The woman came in and she'd set up a mock-up of a teenager's bedroom. Within that bedroom, there were 70, some subtle, some not so subtle, signs of risky behavior. And we learned a lot about what you can purchase. We learned a lot about what you can make at home, how some seemingly innocuous household items, when found in a certain combination, are a cause. What I was really gratified, though, was her theme wasn't that parents should go in and toss their children's bedrooms. The theme was, if you see something that's different, take note of it. And if you notice differences in your child's behavior, take note of it. So it was a really, I thought, a very respectful presentation. At the end of it, she talked a lot about how to have a difficult conversation and ways to have a conversation with your teen that aren't necessarily confrontational. So rather than getting into a match, you never believe me, to just kind of raise the issue, and the teen denies it, just kind of back off, but know that you've planted a seed. And she did a great job. We're hoping that to have her come back next year and perhaps do a similar presentation to the faculty during the day, and then run that same parent outreach again at night. But we're really pleased with what she did. And I want to thank Hanako Jones, our SAP person, for organizing that and bringing her here. Next week, we have a day and a half of in-service. During that time, on the half day of the 9th, elementary schools and BAMs, they have parent conferences, but we've already done that. So we'll continue work on our content area graduation standards on the 9th. On the 10th, we're going to hear, we have a literary task force, and it's a group of teachers that have been working together as a professional learning community to develop some best practices to share with the faculty around literacy and literacy education. They're going to share their work. We're going to do a little bit more work with our personal learning plans, which we need to have in place by the end of this month. And so we're ready to kind of launch those with 9th graders. We'll do some more training on ALICE, which is the enhanced lockdown procedure that we learned about. What we'll be doing on the 10th is we'll actually be breaking the faculty into small groups and actually working through in the classroom various scenarios that could happen. And what does an alert look like? What does it look like to lock down? How do you barricade a door? Things like that. So kind of sobering to think about, but we think that the ALICE program is pretty beneficial to students. We'll also, as Mr. O'Donnell alluded to, have a long overdue discussion about ACE we're taking that very slowly because it's a, or not of ACE, I'm sorry, of this class time. We're taking that slowly because that's a problem that's been around literally for decades, and so we're going to solve it by talking to all the stakeholders very carefully before we make decisions. Fall Pops concert is coming up on the 18th, and Mr. Rice is also doing the district festival. Also, I'm proud that BUHS alumni Riley Goodemote, who works at Leland Gray High School right now, was named Young Music Educator of the Year by the Vermont Music Educators Association. Riley graduated in 2009, attended Ithaca College. It's great to see him get that recognition and further evidence that because he's one of our alumni, that our music program is pretty wonderful. So, but congratulations to Riley. He's a great young man, and I'm very proud of him. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we don't have anybody here from BAMS tonight. Was there anything passed along? Okay. All right, and we'll go to the WRCC Career Center.
Thanks, Wood. So last week, our Future Business Leader of America organization attended their Fall Leadership Conference in Montpelier. The purpose of these fall meetings are to acclimate new FBLA members with state guidelines and the purpose of Future Business Leaders of America, and they all had a great time with their two advisors, Mary Beth Cornell and Barb Vinci. Drove them up. This year, Culinary Arts will be working with Bridget's Kitchen, our local soup kitchen. There will be our students will be using their culinary skills to cook dishes for, on average, 100 people weekly. And they will also have a chance to serve the food they have prepared to diners on a weekly basis, which is going to be a great opportunity for our students to participate in that community service. WRCC teachers will host a tour this Wednesday of Bellows Falls Middle School, and this will be an early attempt on outreach and awareness of what the Career Center has to offer the Bellows Falls Middle School students. So we're hoping that'll be a great success, and they'll remember us when they become juniors in high school.
And when is that happening?
This Wednesday, the 4th. Our upcoming staff professional development will be the 11th, 23rd, and 24th, and we are going to be focusing on our Technology Centers at Work School Improvement Initiative. And Dave Levitt and Marty Shigerick will be facilitating these sessions. And our focus this year will be on project-based learning. And to give a quick summary of project-based learning, it's described as it is a more real-world situation and real-world application with an enhancement of academics blended with hands-on content, and a teaching method in which students gain knowledge and skills by working for an extended period of time to investigate and respond to an engaging and complex question, problem, or challenge. So it's enhancing what we already do in the classroom at the Career Center to make it more realistic and understandable for the students to put two and two together and how they can apply these skills in the real world. So I look forward to the projects by each individual Career Center teacher by the end of the school year. And that's all.
Is it once a week now they're serving the public in the highway? Is that?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Is it? You've had a couple.
We've had 4.
Yeah. Good.
Since the
People
school
starting
year.
to.
They're averaging about 40 to about 50 people Friday in the restaurant, which is great.
Yeah.
Nice article in the paper, by the way, too.
Yes,
That was,
thank you.
That was a really good article about it.
On Saturday.
Yeah.
RAB meeting tomorrow?
Oh, yes, thank you. RAB meeting tomorrow here in this room.
at noon, right?
For 12 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yep, the central office, Ron is at Guilford, I believe. Board Chair, just a couple of things. I got a chance to visit the Career Expo for a little bit the other day, and I was quite impressed. I was there, I think, pretty much after most of the big student numbers were there. However, it was interesting to see the mix of people who were there. Really, with maybe one or two notable exceptions, the key players in Brattleboro area were there in terms of the places where there's career opportunities, and they had nice presentations, and I think it was great. I think it's grown some after the first year, but definitely worthwhile for us to be supporting and being involved with. The other thing, I just want to review the budget schedule as it applies to BUHS number 6. We will be at the Finance Committee / Budget Committee, and these are meetings that are open to anyone who would like to attend on November. We're going to do them a little bit differently this year. Last year, in previous years, we did pretty much each unit in a separate evening. Now we're going to combine a little bit. So on November 19th will be, at least scheduled at this point, is BAMS and the Career Center at 5:30. The 23rd, we will review the district-wide budget, which includes the plant facilities, and there's some pretty big numbers in there for that. And the capital schedule and senior high. Then on the 30th, we will review special ed, and at that point we expect to hear from Frank on the ever complicated revenue side of the budget and begin to try to understand that. So 19th, 23rd, and 30th condensed these budget review meetings into 3 meetings. And then the public information session will be at the beginning of our December 7th board meeting, which will probably start we haven't set the exact time yet, but probably we would start that at 6 and have a quick review of the budget as it stands on that night, Pearl Harbor Day, I think, right?
It is.
December 7th. Yeah. The day they dropped the bomb, but hopefully we won't be dropping a bomb. And then when we get into January, I won't go through all those dates yet, but more public information and warning approval and so forth. So that's where we are with the budget. As Ruth reported, we talked at some length in finance about the parameters. I know the administrators are busy putting together their information, and they have the kind of marching orders, and we look forward to seeing what's generated. Okay.
Are those all at 5:30
5:30, yes.
here?
Yes.
Okay.
It has always been in this room. As far as I know, there was no intention of changing it. Okay, we move on to, I believe that's it for administrative reports. Did we cover everybody? Everybody's here, yeah.
Looks like it.
Okay, unfinished business. Act 46 discussion. This is a placeholder item primarily right now. The study committee is being formed. There are 2 positions for Brattleboro representatives to this committee from the BUHS 6 board. In other words, of the 5 of us that are Brattleboro residents. And I think everybody got a notice accordingly to send in a letter of interest, and I assume they will be fairly quickly picking a couple of participants from our group. Anything else for unfinished business?
Just on that Act 46, I was hoping Ron was going to be here. I forgot he was going to miss it. I was going to ask. Is there an email we can send that to rather than having to send an actual physical paper letter?
I know, I dropped mine off this morning at central office, and I think Barb Nowakowski is collecting them, so I'm assuming you could email it to Barb. And if she needs to get somewhere else, she knows where to get it to.
Okay. I'll drop her.
That's why I gave mine to, and she.
Yeah, that's always safe. If you get it to Barb, she'll...
She'll get it where it needs to go.
Yeah. Okay, there's nothing else under unfinished business. We'll move to new business, and we have some policy work to do.
We do. We have 5 policies that are here for first reading. Policy F1, student conduct and discipline. Student F8, or policy F8, student medication. F9, student alcohol and drugs. H4, distribution of non-school sponsors literature in schools. And LVP3, directory information / military recruitment. Just a few notes from our initial look through on policy. It should be noted that LVP3, directory information / military recruitment, this policy is not about releasing student information to the military for military recruitment. That's a matter of law. This is about informing parents of that and what their rights are regarding that, and their right to opt out if they so choose. One note that we noticed on the student medication policy, F8, is that although it does allow the principal to develop procedures, the policy itself does not actually require that prescription medication be given to the nurse. We think that the may should have been a must in part 1 of the implementation.
I think that was for non-prescription too.
No, non-prescription, it actually requires non-prescription being given to the nurse, and it requires natural medicines to be given to the nurse, but it just says that prescription medication may be given to the nurse. I think that's supposed to be a must.
Except for like asthma or EpiPens. Or
Yeah, I can think of medications that the student needs to have on them
Yes,
at all times.
absolutely, but that should be the nurse's decision, probably not the student.
Should be the parent's decision.
It's
As far as
actually
I'm
in the
concerned.
policy. Those things are mentioned, asthma and inhalers and stuff. EpiPens or whatever.
Because a parent could also decide, well, gee, my student may get a migraine at any time, so they need to have their prescription painkillers on them at all time, which is opening us up to all kinds of problems if we leave it up to the parents and students.
So Ian, you're looking at under implementation.
Yeah, implementation.
Do you think that first may should be a must?
I think it should be on must. Unless there's some reason that it's a may.
No, I think it should be a must.
Our note on, that was our only note on that policy. Our note on student conduct and discipline. In the policy statement, there's a sentence, second to the last sentence. The goal of this policy is to create an environment where the rules for student behavior are clearly stated, are understood and accepted by students and staff, and are applied in compliance with due process requirements. It's a little cumbersome, and really, this policy doesn't do any of those things. This policy says that you should do those things. So we were thinking that maybe there should be some different wording on that, maybe to foster rather than to establish or something like that. We don't have we don't have anything there, that's just our initial note. Our other thought on this is that we have a lot of definitions here, half of which deal with weapons, even though this policy doesn't even talk about weapons much, other than just saying that they should be included in the plan that you develop. So I don't know if we need those definitions here, because it kind of makes this look like a weapon policy rather than a conduct and discipline policy to have those definitions in the policy.
Do you also have a weapon policy?
There is a weapons policy.
There's a firearms policy.
Which covers all weapons,
Yeah.
oddly enough. It used to be a weapons policy, and now it's a firearms policy.
So I don't know that we actually need the definition of weapon or knife in this policy. I don't think it's really relevant to it.
Is it also in the weapons policy
Yes.
or the firearms policy?
Yes.
And was that one of the ones where we?
Yes, that was the one where we put them back in.
Add the definitions?
They tried to take them out of that policy when they were necessary and have them in this policy when it really isn't.
Ian, when I was looking through the conduct and discipline policy, the part that they had crossed off, at least in the copy that I had, was about guideline examples for administrator responsibility. And I was wondering what.
Wondering why they crossed
Well,
that
I mean,
out.
not that I don't agree that maybe they should be dropped, but it was just because it was
No.
just a whole bunch of examples.
We had the
of
exact same thought, but when I went through and read, I realized that that whole thing actually says absolutely nothing, because it's a may, and the administration has to write the plan anyways. So it really isn't directing them to do anything. It's just they may include. Well, there's no.
It's giving them some
Yeah,
hints
there's
to
no
what to
reason why they
include.
wouldn't include. I think we took it out because we assume our administrators know what they're doing, writing those policies.
Ours do.
Okay, I just wasn't sure what the,
That's my thought on why it was removed, because it doesn't mandate anything in the policy. It's just some random suggestions.
Is that cited statutory section, does that spell those things out about what should be in the plan, or may or
It
must?
must. It must spell it out because it's the guiding legislation. But I don't know, I didn't check.
so it's another may or must question.
Right.
Okay. Is that,
That's those are the only notes we have on that policy.
and so we will have a second reading set up
Yeah.
for the next meeting, and
Student alcohol and drugs.
I want to change the title.
Yes, Lori did not like the title of this policy, but we don't really have a suggestion for what to change it to.
We're taking suggestions.
So if anybody can think of a better title for this policy. And distribution of non-school sponsored literature in schools. It is interesting to note that there are more footnotes to this policy than there is policy. We just thought that was interesting. Other than that, the policy looks fine.
so in your further review of these and in making recommendations, will part of the next procedure be to review with administrators as to what you're coming up with, or questions or for them, or?
Well, I think we just asked the main question was that may or must, and we already got the,
Okay.
And one thing I'm looking at is I'm looking at the firearm policy, and I'm also looking at the recommended the definition section of F1. And I guess I would like to sit down at some point and kind of come up with one, because the definitions don't match.
oh, that's a problem.
So we should probably, compare those two definitions and, make them consistent, because I think a weapon in one policy should be in the other one. And maybe one of them, whichever definition we settle on, maybe the other policy has a reference to that definition.
Yeah, and I think the weapons, really, it should be in that firearms policy, which should probably be called firearms and other weapons. Just because, like I said, looking at, when you pick up this policy, it says it's student conduct and discipline, which is a big, broad topic, and immediately you're being hit by weapons and knives, like that's the main focus of it, which is what I don't like about those definitions sitting there.
I bet that's not
There,
the bulk
in the
of our
face.
discipline referrals.
Well, I vaguely remember the last time we reviewed this particular weapons policy, there was quite a bit of discussion around what constitutes a weapon and what's a knife and all of that. There was quite a bit of going back and forth before that was resolved.
I was having the same thought as I just re-looked at the definitions in F1 of a knife. I remember somebody saying
Saying that a pencil
a
would qualify.
pen or a pencil
Yeah.
would qualify under that definition of a knife.
Obviously,
Something that's
Because it's
used to
capable
stab,
of it.
capable of
Yeah.
stabbing and causing bodily injury or something like that. And I remember that being a very long, drawn-out
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
Not that one way or another is right, but I just remember that has been beat around quite a bit during the last, maybe the last two reviews even. I can't remember back to 6 years ago.
I'm still,
Okay,
I did have one question.
yes?
With respect to the proposed discipline policy, G in the procedures, the superintendent or designee shall notify the student and his or her parents in writing of the nature of the charges, etc. And I just wanted to make sure that we're doing that. And if we're not, what are we doing, and should we change the procedure to reflect it?
Right, and we had an incident, a case a few years ago where that happened. And since then, I think we've only had one long-term suspension since then. We did follow that. We sent one to the parent, one to the student.
Excellent.
Okay, so we will revisit them again at our next meeting. Okay, is there anything else under new business? Our next meeting will be November 16th, 7 o'clock, right here.
What's that?
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, I heard our next meeting will be,
November 16th, which is a Monday at 7 o'clock here in this room.
okay, excellent.
Right, with you're
Mr.
wound up, I hear you're ready to
Chairman.
go.
big surprise. Before I make my motion, I am going to remark that the problem of student athletes being dismissed early has been going on in this high school for over 55 years. I think probably ever since they changed from solid session to all-day session. And
Solid session.
solid session, they did not have a lunch period. They had, I think it was only a 10-minute, like a coffee break time. And they got out of school at like 1:15. And this ended about the time that the high school moved from where the municipal center is now up here to this campus. The purpose of solid session was, of course, so that students could get out of school and go to work, because a lot of them had to work to earn their own living or to help assist their families.
Buy their lunch.
I've never heard that phrase.
You've never heard of solid
Solid
session?
I've heard that phrase, no.
Well, poor day you don't learn something new, my father always said.
Board education goes both ways.
And now, Mr. Chairman, if there is no more business, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, second by Lori. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Good meeting. Good work.
Solid session, that's what I have to work every day.